And so it's not that this model is wrong, it's right. It's that this model might not quite be adequate when it comes to the treatment of chronic pain. And a more adequate model might look something like this. I'll walk you through this in a moment. If you've spent time with psychologists, you'll know that models that only have one arrow make us incredibly nervous. And so I don't know if this is a better model or not, but gosh, it's got more arrows, so that makes me feel a little bit better. Anyway, you'll see that we got pain and we got suffering, right? This is hard to do. We got pain, we got suffering. But down in that lower circle, we have responses to suffering. And from the perspective of ACT and certainly other treatments, we can do something about responses to pain and suffering if we can't do anything about pain. And so here we've got suffering when it is accompanied by struggling for pain control contributes to failure, because we know that struggling for pain control is associated with poor outcomes. The data suggests this is so. We know that as people fail to gain pain control, their behavior becomes very restricted, such that more and more of their time is spent in pain escape or pain avoidance efforts. And that comes at a cost, and that cost can be summarized perhaps as losses in freedom and opportunity. People say things like, my husband is stressed and depressed, my daughter stays away, my coworkers don't call anymore, I don't show up. When my friends call, I tell them no, and then they stop calling me. In extreme cases, I don't get out of bed. In super extreme cases, I never leave my room. Have you guys seen this stuff? This happens, right? This happens. And that leads to both an increase in pain and an increase in suffering. And so maybe there are some things in this model we can do something about. We might be able to decrease struggling with pain, and we might be able to do that, just as a quick example, by asking people about things that are important and asking them if there's value here in a maintenance of a life direction. And I'll give you a definition of that in just a second. But the thing with maintaining a life direction is that it is successful, or let me say that in a different way, the success is in the maintenance. So I have a daughter, she's 10, she's a very important thing in my life, very important person, I guess she's not really a thing, is she? But I am not always the kind of parent I want to be. When she was younger, and I gave this example, I would say like 3 a.m. in the morning when she's puking all over the place, not always displaying the parental skill I would like to display. Parents, you know what I'm talking about. Now that she's 10, there are different situations where I'm unable to display parental behavior in a way that I would like to. It's pre-adolescent thing is showing up. So there are times in my life where perhaps I'm not exactly as good a parent, excuse me, as I would like to be. But the maintenance is the important part. The return to the value of that area and trying to keep that importance in my life as a guiding principle. Does that make sense? All right, I'll take silence as yes. And with success ought to come increases in freedom and opportunity, or a broadening out of a behavioral repertoire, and that ought to lead to a reduction in suffering. This is one way of thinking about the model of ACT, and I'll show you some data that suggests that this model seems to work reasonably well in those who have chronic pain.